Let's see.
Yeah.
All right, I think we're live. So,
All right.
for my second guest on my new podcast thing called TymTalk, or however you like to pronounce it, we have the amazing Petter Carlsen. Petter Carlsen. You have to,
Petter Carlsen.
yeah, teach me how to pronounce that properly, actually.
I can't. No. Petter Carlsen. Yeah.
Petter Carlsen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I should have gone. I should have done another name, shouldn't I, for the international releases? I don't know.
Well, I have
But
exactly the same
Pete,
problem, right?
Peter. Yeah, I guess. I
Yeah.
guess you have. Yeah. I guess
Especially
you
with the
do.
last name here on my side, like no one can pronounce that. But hey, at
Yeah.
least it gives us some kind of, I don't know, maybe interesting ethnic quality to English speaking people. Who knows?
Maybe. Kruidinier. Kru. No.
Yeah, that's a good
Kru.
attempt.
Yeah. Okay. How do you pronounce it?
Kruidenier.
Kruidinier. Yeah.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Cool.
Anyway, so I'm happy to have you on here because well, I've admired what you do for quite a bit now, and we've
Thank you.
yeah, we've met along the way once in real life. We hung out for a day in Holland when you were playing here, and that was very interesting. We got to know each other a little bit, and yeah,
Yeah, I
so
think
would be
we
exciting.
used that. Yeah, I think we used that time really well, don't you? I mean, we talked about much that night, that evening,
Yeah,
and it
we
was really
did.
nice. Yeah, was that in Tilburg?
No, in Utrecht it was.
Yeah, it was in Utrecht. Yeah,
Yeah, I was
yeah,
thinking the other day, like how that came about exactly. Like I think I saw you play like the day before, or maybe some days prior, and then I
I
think you
think
had
so.
a day left where you were, yeah, just a day left in Holland before you were flying home or something.
Yeah, I think this was in 2017,
Yeah, probably.
perhaps.
I'm
Yeah, I
terrible
think
with
so.
dates, so
That's the last, actually, the last time I was over there and playing. So
mm,
it's been a while, but it's also gone so fast, these last years. It's insane.
yeah. And
Yeah.
from what I've noticed, like with this whole pandemic happening and everything, you've managed to keep busy as well, right? With because I saw, of course, a new release on your with your solo work, but then also with your more rock duo
Yeah.
project. And
Yeah.
you also did a live stream, and of course, you have a little kid as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
you keep busy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been very busy. Or I mean, not on the live front in itself, but like you said, I've produced a lot of new music
Hmm.
during this pandemic. So it's been a lot of productivity in this room I am in now, which I got like a bit over a year ago. I got this office thing with other people doing the same in the same building. So it's kind of a little collective here, and yeah, it's inspiring to be here, and yeah, I've created a lot of new stuff the last year. So that's been good.
Nice.
Mm. Mm.
So maybe we can go over your how you came to music a little bit about your background. Remember we talked quite a bit about it,
Yeah.
and I remember. To my surprise, because I really liked your music, but I'm not the type of guy who goes to look up like biographies and stuff. So of course I
No.
didn't know like that type of thing about you. And I was surprised to hear that you also have your roots in metal, like I do, because that's not incredibly clear when you listen to your later music. You know, it's
No.
and I find that interesting, anyways, because with a lot of people who start in metal and who slowly gravitate towards something else, I think you can always like, kind of tell still by little, I don't know, like harmonic choices in the chords or melodies and stuff, or maybe certain sounds. But you really don't
Yeah.
sound metal at all anymore, at least with your solo work.
No, maybe not. It's difficult to answer, but yeah, obviously it was first of all, it was Metallica who who opened the door for me and made me want to learn how to play the guitar. in the first place. So it was a lot of eagerness towards my mom about getting a guitar. But
Mm.
I didn't start that early. I was probably 13, 14 when I got my first guitar, and immediately after learning some chords, then I started to write my own songs. So
Mm.
that's always been the most magic stuff about music, is that you can actually create your own music. So yeah, so that's how it began.
And was that earlier music that you wrote like also in that more metal spirit, or was it already more like maybe song driven?
Good question. I think it was more in the metal spirits. We had the band, but it wasn't that serious at the time. But I guess I was more serious than my band members
Mm.
was. So, and that also made me start the solo project, because I couldn't actually find partners who were in it to the same extent as me.
Mm.
So that meant that when I was just moved to Oslo, I was just I lived with two friends there, and suddenly I was just sitting on my bed in my room, making songs in a very different type of way, alone, with no PA system and no drum kits, and that also meant that the music changed, and well, this works as well, and I kind of liked the new path I was on. Uh,
And was
and I
that
think
also
also,
inspired by a lot of what you were listening to, or was that something you kind of figured out yourself when you were just fooling around on the guitar?
I think it was things I was listening to, and also things that my friends were listening to,
Mm.
where I got to know in Oslo. So I guess it was also, it was some bands who really stood out, like Radiohead,
Mm.
uh, Bon Iver, Sigur Rós, and Anathema.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, they were really kind of the most the biggest inspiration at that time, I think, because they showed me that they could do just what they wanted to. They came like from a
Mm.
doom thing, and then suddenly sounded like a heavy Pink Floyd or something. So it was that
Yeah.
was also really inspiring for me. So I think they also showed me that you can just follow your heart.
Yeah, and that's interesting also that you have that background, and then later your path crossed, and because you toured together, right? And you also had
Yeah.
him as a guest on your own work for quite a bit.
Mm, that's true. Uh, yeah, we had this mutual friend in a guy called Paul Kearns from Dublin, who
Mm.
lived in Oslo for quite a while, and he introduced me to Danny Kavanagh when Danny was doing a solo show over here in Oslo. So I gave him the demo, the usual
Yeah.
thing, and the email address, and I didn't expect to hear anything from him, but a couple of months later, he wrote to me that he really liked the song called "Pull the Brakes" on that EP,
Mm.
and and that he would like to. He wanted to see the Northern Lights. Yeah, that was it. So I invited him up to Alta, and
Ah.
luckily he got to see a little glimpse of it. Nothing big and fancy that day, but he did see it, and he was
Hmm.
happy, and we did a little tour together, and then after he came home to England again, he invited me to join on the European tour in 2010. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So to go back a little bit, like you were just saying when you moved to Oslo, and then you were kind of starting to fool around on your own instead of with bandmates. And what time period are we speaking there? Like how long were you playing at that point?
Yeah, I was working as a sound engineer for quite some time, beginning of 2000 to 2005,
Hmm.
something like that. And then I realized more and more that uh, it was music that I really wanted to do, and I wanted to give it a real shot, you
Mm.
know. So then I recorded the EP, which came out in 2006, which also means I've been doing this for 15 years now. Wow.
Mm.
Um, well, and then I moved. Actually, I moved back home to Alta for 1 year, just to, you know. I lived at my mom's, and I had the EP with me and the suitcase and the guitar, and I was just traveling around, you know, playing solo shows wherever I could and sell that new EP of mine. And maybe that was a good move because it got me a record deal at a couple of years, or yeah, year later. So you know, I released You Go Bird on a label called EMI.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna ask you about that as well because I noticed that as well that you had quite a promising, at least from an outside perspective, like that was one of the bigger labels.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you anyway, like what your whole experience is with, having being signed to a bigger label, and also I
Mm.
noticed that later on you became independent, releasing stuff on your own. So yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
Wow, it was so maybe I wasn't ready for it, you know. It was so different than anything else I've had experienced, and also, you know, it was a lot of money involved in that album,
Mm.
I think. And when you have those red numbers at the end of that paper, you know, it means that even though, like, the labels tend to say we're going to build this over time, at least 3 records, blah blah blah, uh, at the end of the day, I mean, you know, when it didn't go, it wasn't that commercial success as they wanted it to be, obviously.
Mm.
So that also meant that and then I had written album number 2 and I presented that to them and they really liked it, but you know, they couldn't hear any singles there,
Mm.
and there was no obvious single. So yeah, then I was back on my own. But
And was that
fortunately,
like let me ask you this, like
yeah.
did you take that was there any, like, how to ask this question, like did you manage to take the whole kind of maybe that the fact that it wasn't as big as a commercial hit as the label wanted it to be, did you take that personally at the time? Did you see it as some type of personal, maybe commercial failure, or were you believing so much in the music and in whatever you do that you need to do what you do, that that was kind of irrelevant?
uh, at first I guess it was a bit of a punch in the, you know, in the belly, but I soon came over that, and I also got a little bit angry because they said they want to build over time and all that
Mm.
stuff, and that kind of made me even more, I guess, even more eager to
Mm.
just do my thing from then on. So yeah, I think I learned a lot from it, and yeah, I think also it made me, you know, really have integrity from there
Yeah.
on. Yeah. So and also I was smart enough not to use my entire advance that I got from the record label, so I had some money to, you know, build from there on my own.
Ah, very
So
nice.
that was also a smart move. Yeah.
Yeah.
um, but
And,
yeah, I
and
think
so it was only one album that you were signed to them?
yeah,
Okay.
was only one. Yeah. Sorry, Timon, two
Yeah,
seconds.
no worries.
Hey, yeah.
That's what happens when it's live, right?
Yeah, it's just a colleague.
No
Yeah.
worries. I was thinking about that as well, like because we're using Zoom now for this call, and I think it's limited to 1 hour. So maybe at the 1 hour
Ah,
mark, if we manage to talk that long, we'll have a little dropout. But well,
yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah,
that
let's see.
people will
Let's
bear
see.
with us.
Yeah, hope so. It's nice to do this though. I've never done a live podcast thing
Yeah,
before.
it's interesting. Huh? It's a little bit
It,
different. And
It is.
but
It
I
is.
like the pressure that's on it, that you cannot edit it later. It's just, it is what it is, you know.
Yeah, it is what it is. True. True. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so let's see.
Where were we?
Yeah, where were we? I had a lot of questions popping up in my mind when you were.
Mm, mm,
Well, yeah. One thing I wanted to say is that it's interesting, and I remember thinking that as well the day when we met and hung out, is that there's a lot of similarities between how you and I think, operate in, or and why we make music. Just the fact that you just said, like, you know, that you realized that creating music and doing your own thing, like, that seems to be, you know, kind of like the driving factor of what it is for you to be a musician. And I've encountered that a lot as well, especially when I find people to play with it, no matter how well it gels and how much we align, maybe musically speaking, there's always this
mm.
little discrepancy between the core motivation, because many musicians, and it's not right or wrong, you know, I'm not casting any judgment, but so many
No.
musicians play music because they like to play music together, and that
Yeah.
is like the primary mover. And I do
Mm.
understand that, and I'm sure you do as well to some extent, because you also play live, and, you know, there's of course an enjoyable element there. But it's, at least when I speak for myself, that's by no means the core motivation. And for me, like, my path went a little differently, in that I just kept searching for people to play with,
Mm.
instead of making that choice. Well, let's do this alone, basically. Not
Yeah.
that you do it alone, because you still work with musicians, obviously.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, let's talk a little bit more about that. Like, at what point did you feel like, okay, I need to do this kind of alone? And did you have any, because I certainly have had that when at the points when I did consider maybe to do this on my own, and I was thinking about, like, what to name it, and to name the project after your own name, like, is such a
Mm.
weird, like, feeling for me.
Yeah. I think it was that for me too. But you know, I think also people kind of persuaded me
Mm,
into doing so, because you know that's honest, and you're a singer songwriter. And if I was to name the project now, I'm not sure I would have named it me,
mm,
if you know what I mean. Yeah.
mm-hmm,
But but obviously also back, you know, I was back then I was obviously younger, and I was also there was more doubt uh, in the whole thing, obviously too. And it was a lot of stuff happening in my life. My father passed away at that time, and I was in Oslo, and I was doing a I was working with a project that I didn't like at all, but it was good money, and I think I was confused too. So then I guess that also made me write those songs, you know, more open and honest type of music, more personal, much more personal
mm.
than it had been before. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question now, but this just
No, I
popped to
think you do. Like,
my
it all
mind.
ties
Yeah,
together. Yeah.
yeah, I think so. So and yeah, and also the fact that it was hard for me to find the right people for that project immediately, but I did find, and I had the same band for quite a while, but it was difficult to travel around as a 5 piece
Yeah.
band, especially in, you know, Norway with these distances and flights, and
Hmm.
it gets too expensive unless you're selling a lot of tickets. So I scaled down, you know, at one point to a 3 piece and to a duo. We did a lot of duo shows, me and the drummer, who did different kinds of stuff added to the acoustic drums, which also was exciting and challenging,
Hmm.
very, I guess. Yeah. So yeah, you know, but yeah, I could not have foreseen that path I was going on. I you know, and many people say that to me, because who knew me from the beginning, where is this coming from, you know? I don't know. Just, you know, it's just from the core, like you said.
Yeah, it just happens. Well, that's very interesting to hear, because for me, like that moment in life came a little later to me, when I decided to basically go the singer-songwriter route. And in that way, I think you also answered, because you asked like whether you're answering the question. But for me, it was very similar in life, like all these things coming together when I decided to give the music a more personal touch. And well, for me, that wasn't that difficult, because the music I made prior to that was instrumental. So then as soon as you're going to include lyrics, then okay, what the hell am I going to write about? Then, well, that ended up being very personal stuff. And all of these things just also happened at that moment in my life. Well, and that created Our Oceans. And and with that project as well, like that's why I just asked you about the band name, because for that project I thought a long time about what to call it, and I did very seriously consider it just to call it my own name, but and then I moved back a little bit from that, and then I kind of stuck with the name, and then the band, or the project, became more of a band. And then now we're just in the process of discussing that again. So it's interesting. It's interesting how these things keep moving. And
Is it? I think it's lagging a little bit every now and then, but I think we're fine.
Sometimes I see the screen freeze up a little bit, but I think the audio is fine, at least on my end. It is.
Yeah, good.
Great.
Yeah, maybe a band name kind of makes it more I don't know, more enigmatic.
But I do like what you just said about like having your own name on it does reflect a certain type of maybe honesty and personality that's in there. And maybe it's also very clear to the people you're working with that it's really aimed around your personal vision, instead of it becoming a band, which might have its pros and its cons, but at least it's very clear.
I guess. And even though it's called my name, I mean, it was never a solo project. I mean, the producers who have been involved, and the musicians, they all kind of have made their mark on it, every one of them. So, and then that's what I wanted too. So, so that's also exciting, that I can actually, I want to work with these guys or her on this album, and that's exciting. So who knows what I will do in the future? But right now, I was thinking I could do a heavy album under this name, and it would still be me, because there are both sides in it. So, and that's cool.
Yeah, that is attractive. Yeah.
No limits.
Yeah. So, how does your whole singing fit into this backstory of you becoming a singer-songwriter? And like, did you start singing at the same age as you did playing the guitar, or was it earlier or later? And did you first sing along with Hatfield as well? Or? Because that sounds hilarious in my head. You singing along with Metallica in such a different voice.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I didn't open my mouth for several years later. I was playing the guitar first and foremost, and I was never going to be a singer, I thought. But then I went to, was it college, so to speak, or when I was 16 to 18. I went this musical path, music, dance, and drama. It's called, and there we had singing lessons. and uh, and then I, and also the choir. I think the choir was the main reason why I got into singing, because some of the girls in the choir, my fellow students, they really came up to me and said, "You have a nice voice, and you're
Hmm.
singing so clear, and it's so nice." So, and that obviously gave me some self-esteem
Yeah.
in the singing area. So I
So does
guess
that mean
that's
that like kind of very clear quality in your voice that was there as soon as you did open your mouth?
I don't know, but I remember that they see me when we had the choirs classes, and they stood next to me, and also I thought um, it was so exciting and fulfilling to sing with a choir. I still remember that feeling, and I think I want to sing in a choir again at some point.
Ah,
But because it's a it's a it's a majestic feeling, actually, to when so many people are suddenly a unity in sound. It's, yeah, that's really magical. And so I got a bit, I also remember now, I got a bit carried away while singing in these classes, and I sang so loud that, the conductor stopped and said, Petter, you have a nice voice, but you're way too eager right now. And I remember how embarrassed I was that time. But yeah, I got really carried away. So I really got into singing. It was a lot of it was a lot of emotions attached to it immediately, as it
hmm.
is with, I guess all who sings. I think all singers are more emotionally attached to their projects. It seems that way to me.
Makes sense to
With
me.
singers, but yeah, maybe it is like that. Maybe. Or
Yeah,
that we just experience music differently, a typical drummer than a typical singer, which is also interesting.
yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I definitely had that experience as well because, as you know, I also started singing much later, like much
yeah,
later than you even, because I was already 34, 35 or something, so very late in my
yeah.
musical life, I would
Well,
say.
you're singing really, really good.
Thanks, but that was also
Yeah,
a shitload of work.
yeah,
I
yeah.
really took it
You told
seriously.
me.
Um, and then I still have a lot to kind of balance out as far as like really actually performing it goes. At first I could
Yeah,
only maybe once in 100 tries I could get a decent note and decent sound and decent pitch,
yeah,
but it's
yeah,
getting more and more stable these days. But yeah, that's like I maybe also because I did start a little later in life. It was very clear to me kind of what it brought to the table next to, because I was so used to just being a guitar player alone. And
mm,
in hindsight, I also think because I'm the type of guitar player who got kind of, especially before I went into you know the singer songwriter direction, I was playing a lot of kind of difficult music with a lot of notes, a lot of
yeah,
improvisation. And in
yeah,
hindsight, that was really, I was never so attracted to like complex music in that way, like shred music or something. It was just kind of a attempt for me to be more expressive, if you know what I mean, on the instrument,
mm,
because I
mm,
just couldn't find a way to, I think, fully transfer what I felt inside to music. And then
yeah,
later when I started singing, I realized like, oh, wait a minute, like this is so much more immediate. It's
yeah,
such a better instrument, at least for me. Like that interface is so expressive, and
yeah.
guitar is already an
It's
expressive instrument, but vocals is
yeah,
just next level.
yeah. Maybe, yeah. That's a good point. That the voice is an easier access to your emotions,
Yeah.
or yeah, to express them. Yeah, yeah. I believe so too. Well, yeah,
And
cool.
now that we're talking about singing, anyways, let's nerd out a little bit about that. Because as I just mentioned, I spent a lot of time like learning how to sing. So I kind of, on the one hand, I am a very intuitive musician when I write music, and because I just believe that that to be an approach that I just really, well, it resonates with me. But as it
Same
comes
here.
to, yeah, and I wouldn't have expected anything else from you. Um, but as far as learning something, and I kind of put a timestamp on it as well for myself, because I thought, like, well, I'm learning this late in life. I want to just spend a couple of years like drilling this down, just so that I have the technical side of it down, like the technique side.
Mm.
So I did kind of approach it from a very technique-based perspective, with all
Mm.
its pros and cons, by the way. But how is that for you? Because you began a little earlier in life with singing, and as you just mentioned, you got into it pretty quickly with the choir, and you were so at that point you already had like some indirect and direct coaches. So was it something that grew organically, or did you also spend a lot of time just drilling your chops as to your singing?
I was never the kind of the rehearsal guy who was working on scales,
Mm-hmm.
in my room or anything. It was more like learning by playing live, I
Mm.
guess. And um, I did try to take some, after this music study in Alta, and when I moved to Oslo, I did try to take some singing classes with um, yeah, with people who was educated in the field, but it we never got along. I didn't, it was I tried several different ones just to see,
So
but it
tell me
was
some of the things that you were not getting along on. Like, why did that fall apart?
well, it's a while now. Maybe I've just forgot it on purpose or something, but but no, it was he wanted me to sing differently than I felt was right for me.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's about that you have to do it like this. It's so many rules, and
Mm-hmm.
then I fall off the wagon immediately when you come and apply rules to that.
Yeah, it's again
Yeah,
very similar. And I think also that speaks to probably one of the reasons, or one of the things that go together with our types of approaches to music, is that we are maybe quite a bit stubborn, and because we kind of know what we want to do with it. Is that
yeah,
also
yeah,
true for you?
yeah. I think so. Yeah, it has been a lot of arguing with all the ones I work with, also in where to go on that song and what to do with the voice
Mm.
there. But that also that's healthy. But yeah, I think I'm pretty stubborn too. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it just
Yeah,
resonated with me what you just said. It's like I also can get that feeling of just knowing when something is right or wrong for me, in especially in creative endeavors, because anything out of that is of course kind of subjective and whatever, or
yeah,
objective anyway.
yeah,
But yeah, if that happens to me when I'm taking classes about something creative, and a teacher is steering me in a way that I feel is not right for me, then it's there's
yeah.
also no way we're
Yeah.
going there. It's just not
Then
gonna
you're
happen.
off. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I see. Yeah. Um, and you said something about being an intuitive writer. It's also the same for me, and in my rock project as a duo, when we're in a rehearsal room, I think that's the most fulfilling way of writing songs for me. Just jamming, just looking at each other. Holy shit, that was cool. Stop. I have to press record, and just to record that little piece of thing we just
Mm.
did. That's the I really like that way of writing music. It's so less not demanding, but it's if the energy and the day is right,
Mm.
you can go places you wouldn't have if you just sat with your guitar in the studio alone. So that's the magic of creating something together with other people in the room. I think that's what I like the most about doing this.
Nice, yeah. Yeah, I do recognize that because
Mm.
it's as we said earlier, I have been doing the band thing a little bit uh, more than you, I guess, in terms of like
Yeah, I
really
think
having
so.
band members.
Yeah,
So I do know that dynamic, and it can work really well. It really depends also. Like I can imagine, for example, for the duo rock project that you have, like I think I can also kind of clearly hear that in the end result that music was created like that. It just has a more
yeah,
loose type of like. There's a better word, but I can't find it in English
yeah, yeah. But
at
I
the
know what you
moment. But
mean.
just
Yeah,
this kind of
yeah,
reckless abandonment or something, like more free
yeah,
setting or something.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and for that, it is like it depends, of course, also on the music you're writing. If it's like
yeah.
if it's
Of
very
course.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, that must be the same for you because you have songs where for example, you have like lyrics that have taken quite a bit of thought. I would imagine, and with a guitar part underneath that's quite
Mm.
has some motifs going that took some development and that type of stuff. It's hard to push out like in real time in a rehearsal
Immediate.
space,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 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 yeah. True. And when you say these things now, I realize that you know it's everything that makes it so good. I mean, it's all the parts.
Yeah.
Sorry for the really bad English. No,
Oh
it's
no
all
no
the
no.
parts. I mean, it's all the parts because having all these different projects really it brings energy over to the next project. Like if I'm doing something with a fiddle player called Julie Alapnes in Tromsø, really great musician and songwriter, and I play this folk rock music with her. And then I come up north and I do work on my solo projects and then move over to Pilo Bue. That really resonates with me because then I can it suddenly becomes so fresh, I guess.
Mm.
And yeah, and you bring elements from the other projects into the ones you're currently working on, and that's been a really good setup for me to have different projects, really.
Yeah.
I think.
I
Yeah,
I suspect I need to do that also, like once again, for exactly the same reasons also, because
yeah,
it's like at a certain point when I started this Our Oceans thing, I was something in the back of my mind was, well, maybe let's not do side projects anymore because it already takes enough time as it is to make this music. I'm not the fastest writer in the world anyway, and so it was like
same here.
maybe
Yeah.
yeah, and it was already kind
Mm,
of later in life maybe that I also started to try something with perhaps a little bit more commercial appeal. So it's like let's focus all
mm,
my energy on that. But what I'm finding
mm.
now is that I think I also kind of need that diversity of some different projects.
Yeah.
And so yeah, me and also the guys have been talking about like maybe doing something very different on the side with also different roles in it, so that in one project I can be that like singer songwriter, and maybe in the other project not, and like you're just like a team, a group member.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, because I really like that too, not to be the kind of front man in the band
Mm,
always. Because when I play with Julia, obviously she is the front, and I'm just kind of a sidekick there, and that's also a role that I really like. You
yeah,
know, just
yeah,
do some harmonies on her vocals
mm,
and just play guitar. Just be a
yeah, yeah.
guitar man.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
I
Yeah,
had those years as well when I played
yeah,
with with Cynic, the American band, and
yeah,
I really enjoyed that as well. It's like it's not one or the other. Like in like if that, how do you say that, the if it's clear up front that that is the setup, and that it's not like your project per se, but you're just like one of the
yeah,
members in the group, that's also very enjoyable in just in a
yeah.
different way. I think more
Different
and
way.
more, maybe more in that way that we were speaking before. Like, what is the motivation of most musicians that I meet?
Mm.
that it's more just making music, just the
Yeah,
yeah.
and it never it never runs dry. I mean, you always want to go full speed again. Obviously we need some short breaks, but it never ends. I think, and I think I speak for both of us when I say
Hmm.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating that it's always this eagerness and this almost childish naivety, at least for my part, when I'm writing. You always think this is going to be the best song, and it's great. It's great.
Well, I
I
love
love
it
it.
that you. I love how you just said that, including with the smile on your face. That
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I definitely try to capture that energy and go into it that way. It's not always that easy for me personally. I do have like moments. It is actually, I should say, like the older I get, the easier it gets to be productive and with almost like a childlike uncaringness. But I had to learn that along the way. Like
Yeah.
when I started, I was so perfectionistic that I
Yeah.
would just get in my own way and I would just struggle and second guess everything that I would do.
Yeah, I totally get you. Yeah, it's the same for me when you say that. I mean, about the same age, I think,
Yeah.
and it's the same here as well. It's the fear of letting go of something when
Mm.
you're 25 compared to now.
Hmm.
Now it's like, yeah, that's great. That's
Exactly.
done. Let's go. Yeah,
Yeah, I do love
yeah,
that. Yeah, that's
yeah. Me,
probably the
me
thing
too.
I love most about working these days. Just
Mm.
no expectations and also like I think just
No.
as soon as you make that discovery, that second guessing yourself. For me, I'm
Mm.
speaking from personal experience now. It's like it
Mm.
never works. Like there never comes anything good about second guessing yourself because like
No.
what happens like you're just starting to overthink everything and if you
Yeah.
just take quick decisions and you just trust your instincts, then if something doesn't work out it'll show itself anyway in the process and then you
Yeah.
fix it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You don't need to
Yeah.
watch out for those type of things.
No. No. I agree. So it's less frightening now, I guess. I
Yeah.
mean, it's easier to fail.
Yeah, and maybe in a
Yeah.
sense also you begin to care less about whether or not it is going to fail, if because there's
Yeah.
some there's a lot of the process you cannot really, you're just not in control of, in a sense. You're
No.
not in control of
No.
if it's going to be a success or not really. So all you can do is just let go and give it your best shot and then you'll see what happens, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess. Yeah, that's very true. And I guess you know what was I saying? Yeah. Yeah. You never know. You just have to be true to yourself. Like, this, I can stand for this, and this can be on the internet and in the record stores
Yeah,
for
exactly.
the rest of my life, and that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. And also with those, having different projects, I guess it also takes the sting out of the seriousness about it all, that when you talk about success, that you don't necessarily feel that everything stands on this one card or one project, that if this goes south, then hell, I need to find a different way of living, or yeah.
Hmm.
So maybe that's also makes it a little easier in for the mind and for the heart to have different projects, I think, for me,
Yeah, makes
because it,
sense.
it, it yeah, it's not too serious. I mean, then you also start, like you say, like you overthink and procrastinate, and
Hmm.
you know yeah, and that's not a good way to be in as an artist at all.
No, right?
So
Like it
you just
just clamps
yeah.
down creativity and you just put a brake on
Yeah, it
everything.
does. Yeah, because the road is the goal here, for me, just to be able to produce, to make stuff that you have visualize. I mean, have seen, and then move on to the next
Yeah.
all the time. You know, it never stop.
Yeah,
It's just
completely the
that's
same
the
here.
yeah
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I love that
So
perspective
that's
as well.
yeah. I guess that's success for me, because I also realized that I'm not a, you know, typical hit maker in the pop industry. It's something else that I'm doing. I've realized now.
Yeah, but it's awesome that you have managed to reframe what is success for yourself, because that makes it so that it's what's the word? So that it's like doable on a longer time frame.
Yeah.
Because, you know, if you're gonna indeed put some constraints on whether you're gonna continue or not, or how you're gonna feel about what you do based on
Yeah.
whether or not it's commercial success, then well, yeah, that's probably not a very healthy and happy place to live anyway, you know?
No, no. Then you always disappoint yourself,
Yeah,
and that's also not very healthy.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Mm. Mm.
So I want to nerd out a little bit more about your voice, because
Oh yeah.
you're singing like when I think I also mentioned this when we met. Is when I started singing, that was coincidentally also very much the point that I just had discovered you, so not so long before that. So you were one of the persons that I kind of identified with a lot, like in terms of how you sounded, what you kind of emotionally kind of portrayed, so to speak. And
Mm.
I kind of felt like, okay, that this, because if you just start singing, you have no idea what you're going to sound like, basically. You only know your speaking voice. You don't really know, because you can make so many different voices with your sound, you know, with your voice.
Yeah.
You can mimic so many people. So you don't know in the beginning, like, how do I sound, right? It's like this
No,
whole
that, yeah,
search.
true.
And
Mm.
so part of the search for me was just trying to sound like you.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and well, that's kind of a fun challenge to do anyways, you know, to see with different singers, like where do you kind of align, what type of sounds can you make, and where does it differ a lot, and
Yeah.
where not. And I just
Because you go
Mhm.
you go pretty high in range. You're pretty high there.
Yeah, I can go very high. That's an
Yeah, you
interesting
can.
discovery.
Yeah.
I couldn't
Yeah.
always, you know, that was as well, that's a good what's the word? Well, it's a good argument for um, maybe figuring
Continue.
maybe figuring out how things work at a more anatomical, technical level, because
Mm.
I do remember very clearly that I just was doing all these exercises to find your head voice. And I
Yeah.
mean, all of these terminologies kind of differ a little bit from different singing methods and stuff, so it gets really confusing easily if you're not careful. But point being is that
Yeah.
I did a lot of like very well, just targeted exercises to find that voice. And one day I just found it, and it was very unstable, like a mosquito, like like that sound.
Okay.
But
Okay. Yeah.
I just instantly knew, like, wait a minute, I just tapped into something that if I practice this a lot, I can sing incredibly high and controlled with very little air. So I practiced the
Yeah.
hell out of that. But
Yeah. Okay. So it's very little air. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
very. I usually
yeah.
sing quite compressed. I guess they call that.
So that's what you call a head verb. I mean head voice. Is it?
Well, yeah, it gets so confusing with all these different terms. So for me personally,
Because I yeah.
I make a distinction there, and I kind of wanted to ask you about that anyways, because when I listen to you, I don't think you have that distinction in your voice, perhaps. But for me, if I sing a little bit higher, so maybe that sound, like I need to make a choice there. I can do that with air, and it's like,
Yeah.
or I just.
Yeah.
It might be
Yeah.
hard to tell a difference, but I know and I feel that I'm
Yeah.
doing a
Yeah.
different
You
thing
feel
there.
it. Yeah.
Is that the same for you? Like if you sing high in a type of light falsetto-y way, or is there just you sing high and that's it?
Um. I have no idea.
I like that answer.
Oh, it's a very good question. I just have to find it, the right um, temperature of the song, I guess, the right, the right energy level of it. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure what I do. Actually, I just try.
Yeah, that is. I do find that I think that's kind of a distinction between if you want to use those type of words of like natural singers and unnatural singers. Like, not to say that either of those are better or worse, but I find with people who just like you who give answers like that, I find that very interesting. So that, because that means like it didn't mean that it came to you easily. You might have still like put a lot of work into it and everything, but there is an intuitive element there, because like you just said, it's context related, and you search for what you need in that context, and then with some time you can find it.
Yeah, and also it's been learning by doing it. What do they say? If you sing 10,000 hours or do anything 10,000 hours, then you're starting to get a grip, a hold of it. But I remember also after coming home from the Anathema tour, actually in 2010, and then I really felt that I have become a more stable and a better singer. I think, because I've done it so much over such a short period of time for so many people, actually. So it was I really felt that I progressed a lot on those tours with them.
Yeah, there's something.
And also, like, it was
like many people say that like, well, there's all kinds of romantic ways to say that, to kind of get across the point of that when you're playing live, you're really learning your instrument, or really learning what you're doing. And I think it has something to do with like kind of the pressure that's on it at that point. It's like you're so conscious of what you're doing, so that your learning just goes much quicker, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's like that, because rehearsing in the studio, I mean, or in a rehearsing room, it's not the same level of focus. Exactly. Not nearly the same. So it's the best way to get better is to play live, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of the predicament I'm in right now, is that I was just saying in the beginning of the conversation that I'm still kind of balancing out my voice very much. And and so I know that the quickest way to do that is just playing live a lot. But by choosing that like route, I'm gonna disappoint a lot of people in the beginning, because I really suck quite a lot, like at times. And and it's
yes,
also,
says you, but you're probably your strongest critic. Yeah,
I know many people say that, but then I've managed to convince even the naysayers by singing live for them. So it really is quite well. I've made a lot of progress this past year or one or two, but we did have some gigs at just before the pandemic hit, kind of warm-up gigs, and well, I really wasn't ready then, and well, also I just sang so much. That? Yeah,
did you feel
felt
that
it.
like?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, did you feel that like immediately after entering the stage? I mean, even before you started singing, or how? Yeah. How did you?
Well, I got myself in a little bit of trouble, anyways, by just before. So that was like my 3 or 4 mark how do you say that, 3-4 years in of singing. So I found
Yeah.
like most of what I could do with my voice, but very unstable, especially kind of this belty mid-range voice. And
Yeah.
I was practicing so much, like day in, day out, like hours a day, that I just got myself in this spot where I just got hoarse every day and I just screamed my voice away. And
Yeah.
that was the moment also that that those live gigs happened. And so my
Yeah.
voice was already in such bad shape. And then on top of
Yeah.
that, of course, the knowledge, from a
Yeah.
psychological point of view, that you step on stage knowing your voice isn't going to work well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, really great
Yeah.
first experience.
Yeah, but I guess the ones who are into your music, they also kind of know that that was just a gig, if you know what I mean. I mean, I
Right.
don't think you lost anyone on that. I mean,
Yeah, it's well, that's always also one of these things that I can reframe in my mind fairly well these
yeah,
days when I know, like, well, whether or not whatever anyone thought or felt that, the days that they saw that, it's not the end of the world, right? It's not like I'm not
no,
doing some surgery on the heart or something, and then no one's gonna
no,
die if I sing a wrong
no,
note. So who
no,
fucking
no.
cares, really?
Yeah, it's just a gig.
It's just a gig.
Vincent Cavanaugh used to say that to me when I was nervous on the bus and I was doing the support show. It's just a fucking gig.
Yeah.
And it was like, so yeah, you're right, of course.
Yeah.
I'm
Very
not even
true.
the main act here, so yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that's true. I mean, it's not the end of the world, like you say. But I have also been in those situations. Once you talk about it, knowing that this is, and if you say that to yourself, I mean, the brain has immense power over
Oh
the
yeah.
body. So if you say that to yourself that this is not going to work, you're not going to reach that note, then you're
Yeah,
not going to reach that
especially with
note.
singing,
So
right? Like you're so
yeah,
susceptible to your mindset. It's
yeah,
incredible.
yeah. It's really fascinating, and I don't know. I still, how many gigs have we played? A lot, but I still don't know how to find the right, the right mood when you go
Yeah.
on stage. What am I supposed to do, like to be the best version of me? It's impossible for me to figure that out. I mean,
Yeah, it's interesting,
perhaps
right?
because it's very interesting, but it's perhaps because
Yeah.
there is no formula to it, I guess.
I think also the fact is probably that it's going to change from day to day, because you are just different versions of yourself each day that you happen to
Exactly.
play live. So whatever you
So
do
every
that
day
day
it's
is, it's a little bit different when it
it's
needs to happen.
different parameters
Yeah.
every day as you evolve and the world changes and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah.
But there are
So
definitely
yeah,
constants in the way of like not getting in your own way, because like we were just saying, as soon as you're gonna like doubt yourself or have those type of thoughts, that never translates well to playing live,
no,
at
it
least.
doesn't. No, and it is. Sometimes it is a struggle. Also, sometimes coming off stage feeling like, I didn't have that energy. I felt a bit, I was never on top of the game. I was always, trying to reach
Yeah.
for the notes and for the stuff that you wanted to achieve. And then very often when you come off stage those days, people say, yeah, that was a great show. So it's,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
this, what we do is, it's so fascinating. I don't understand it. That's why we do. That's why I do it still, and will do for the rest of my life.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, it's
Yeah.
funny that you said that, like, because I remember also having those experiences of having, coming off stage and feeling like, well, yeah, that was not the greatest. And then people
Yeah.
coming up to you. And for the
Yeah.
longest time, I would think like, yeah, but you didn't hear what I heard, And I was kind of a little bit skeptic. But
Yeah.
then later on, I had some experience where people recorded the show in pretty good quality, on video or whatever, you know, and you could manage to watch it back and listen. And then I actually have the same experience as these people, you know, like, this is actually not too bad. So that even goes to show like how wrong you can be, you know, with your judgment on that stage.
Yeah. It's so fascinating that I know myself so well.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's also a hard task, of course, like if you think about it, like we only have so much, well, CPU power, you know, to speak in computer terms, to like if you're on a stage and you're also singing and playing guitar, that's already incredibly complicated if you look at it computational, right? What your brain is doing. Then on top of that, and also like make sure, you know, to convey the right energy to the audience and do all the technical stuff and remember your lyrics, remember the parts. So there's a lot of it already happening. So the last thing you can probably expect yourself to do is also listen and be it, you know,
exactly.
Have any opinion about that part?
Yeah, you can't be a part of the audience as well.
No.
There is not enough random access memory to
yeah, exactly.
to do that. Yeah.
Also, why would you even bother with it, right? Like, I think that is something that I started to play with more. You know, to answer your question when you were saying like, what's the best mindset to go on stage? I think I was trying that like as one of my latest experiments, just to try and have no opinion at all about it, because it's simply irrelevant what your opinion is.
Yeah, you mean after coming off stage?
And during, just really try. And of course, that's easier said than done, because as soon as you hit like an imperfect note or something, you're gonna think and you're gonna worry.
And the demons will come up on your shoulder in the kitchen. How's it going, old friend? It's a fight, you know, between the good and the evil. Sometimes playing shows.
Yeah, well, it's nice how you frame that. If you do indeed get friendly with Mr. Evil or Devil, well, those words are probably a little bit like exaggerated in terms of playing live, but I know exactly what you mean, and it's probably good to get friendly and kind of on laughing terms with those feelings.
Acknowledge them. Yeah, I think so. And also, what I found out works for me, which is also not easy to achieve, but just to, you know, have fun before playing a show, that means a lot to you. I mean, just, you know, laugh. That it opens, you know, the body relaxes, the muscles. I mean, it has such great effect on me. If you just have fun before, you know, fool around, have fun before playing a show. It really is the best warm up for me.
Yeah, totally agree.
Also, because also when, you know, playing the solo stuff with the band, and it's also it's challenging. It's, you know, there's no gigs are the same. Also, it's always different, and it's always very, very exciting to see how it will turn out, I think. So if you're able to have a little bit of fun before you play, it's it works well.
Yeah, for sure. It's also interesting, as soon, like you obviously cannot overemphasize or how do you say this? Like, you cannot take this whole objective overly serious either, because if you're going to do that, then that, of course, defeats the purpose. If you're going to tell yourself, like, now I'm going to have fun, now I'm going to laugh, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard to make it happen.
So that's why I said it's so how do you achieve having fun? I mean, that's always also something which is really intuitive, and I mean, somebody has to say something that's funny, perhaps, or I mean, so it's the mind is a mystery still.
I'm curious. Speaking about the mind, I don't know if you're into this at all, but I've been into like meditation and that sort of thing for quite a lot of years, but never really hit home with me until like maybe 1.5 or 2 years ago, and I got into it quite seriously. And
Okay, so you kept trying for a long time without
yeah, on and
seeing
off.
any effects.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. I never understood
Mm.
it. I got to that point where
No.
I think a lot of people, yeah, that same kind of frustrating. Like, am I doing this right? And am I give? Does it give me any benefits? You know, that you arrive at that point and you just don't see that it's worth it to continue. So I had that for a long time. But then
Yeah.
I think I just finally managed to, find the right kind of information to make it a little bit more tangible for me.
Mm.
So I wonder if that will have any effect on playing live the next time I do,
Mm.
because that
Mm.
I would say that has been quite influential or impactful
Yeah.
on me.
Yeah.
Have you ever
Uh,
practiced any meditation or something
mm,
like that?
no, no, not really. I haven't. I mean, but walking in the woods is, or even bicycling. I really enjoy, just jumping on my bike here and just, into the woods on some
Mm,
small path. That's a great feeling, and yeah, like to shut everything out
yeah.
or down.
Well,
So,
I would say
but I'm not
that's
sure if.
actually very similar to at least, one of the things I learned, like that about the whole practice of meditation, that it's not some otherworldly type of like thing that you need to work for like really hard to manage. It's something that you can recognize as always there. And so that means
Mm,
that what you just described of just that instant of walking in the woods and just forgetting about everything and really paying attention to what's happening, that's it.
mm, yeah,
That's
yeah,
it. So you, in a way, you know exactly what it is already.
yeah. Okay, so like being in the present, perhaps.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, but maybe I'll try that one day, because, well, I think life has become better the older I've got.
Mm.
Uh, in the big picture, at least.
Hmm.
There was always pros and cons, I guess, but but you you start to kind of get more on top of things, at least of your mind, and you know yourself a little bit better, what works with you and what don't, a little bit more. So it's always it's very small nuances, but yeah. So I think that also has, what I'm trying to say, I think that also helps with making music, that you're I'm more efficient now, I think.
Mm.
I think it's like we talked about earlier. uh, yeah, this is a new song, uh, and I'm happy with it, so I'm moving on to the next. So I think it's easier to be creative now,
Yeah.
more than before.
Yeah, that's good to hear, and indeed, I'm totally with you there. It does
Yeah,
seem indeed to just get easier the older you get.
yeah,
You're just a little bit more indeed familiar with how your own mind works, and that's not to say that there are no surprises anymore, and that sometimes just life comes out of nowhere and knocks you down a little bit.
yeah,
That
yeah,
everyone is susceptible to that, of course, from time to time.
yeah,
But I find,
yeah.
yeah, very much the same thing. And
Mm.
yeah, I'm in that mindset actually right now, where I'm working on new songs, and I can't believe like how quickly some of them come out. Like some of
No.
them, you just are stuck on for maybe a week or two or whatever. But others, just at least the rough sketch, the rough outlines of the song, they just come out in a day, and it's like, what?
Yeah, yeah,
Nice. Not
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
not gonna fight it. Just go with the
No,
flow.
no, don't. Yeah, go with the flow. Like, exactly. Yeah, so that's also interesting, and yeah, when writing, like I said, with Pilo Bue, Pijlenboog. Is that what you would say in Dutch?
Yeah, how do you know that?
Pijlenboog. Yeah, yeah. No, no. We did a couple of shows over there,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we had to. Yeah, we had to introduce ourselves. So that then we learned how to.
Ah, okay.
Yeah,
So for the English
yeah.
speakers, bow and arrow. So
Bow and arrow.
that's interesting because I was going to ask you anyways, like what the hell is up with that name? But
Yeah.
I thought it would be like nicknames for the two of you or something.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, in a way, it is. I'm the arrow because I'm the singer, you know, and he's
Uh
the bow, the drum. But
Cool.
yeah, we just thought it was a cool band name and not very pretentious. So
Yeah, yeah.
we liked it. We liked it at the beginning, and yeah, we never changed it. So that's what it is. And obviously, it's a duo, so it works in that way as well,
Yeah, yeah.
I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
So maybe I wanted to ask you anyways, and I think I already have a little bit of the answer in that we, you showed me and you talked a little bit about that you have your own kind of space there, your working space. I was going to ask,
Yeah.
like, do you have a routine as far as like songwriting and working on music goes? Like, is it more of a daily type thing where you just have a schedule, or is it more you're going there when inspiration hits and you'll see what happens, or how do you go about it?
Yeah. That's a good question. I wish I had more of a a schedule in terms of maybe dedicating 2 or 3 days a week for doing music and 2 or 3 for doing the office, the paperwork. Because I don't know about you, but on my end, it's a lot of administrative work to keep these boats afloat, so to speak.
Mm,
I mean, it's quite demanding in terms of emails and stuff. At least for the solo project where I release on my own label and
yeah.
to some extent even book my own shows. And yeah, so it's a lot of work. But I think now it's not too long ago since my latest album came out as a solo. I think we actually released the same month, November last year, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So it hasn't come to me the need to create a new album
Mm,
just yet, or even new songs. So it's a bit on hold. And obviously Pilo Bue is also in the
yeah.
mix a lot more right now.
Hmm.
So right now the focus is on Pilo Bue, and then we meet because the drummer lives in the city 2 hours drive from here. So we kind of change who goes to whom to rehearse. So
Mm,
so then we just plan, and we perhaps he's here one night, and likewise, and we have 2 sessions where we record stuff, and then I come back here to the office, and then I try to add some lyrics to it, and then we meet again, let things mature a little bit, and that's been a really good way of working with him.
mm.
So, but I saw these. Have you seen This Is Pop on Netflix?
This what?
This is pop. This is pop. This is
No, I
pop
don't think
music.
so.
I don't
What
know.
is
It's a
it? It's a documentary. Or...
yeah. It's about this pop music and
Okay.
different sides of it. It's about ABBA and Dolly Parton and
Ah,
country and pop and crossover. And so I was also, I get inspired when I see these documentaries. So maybe I should be even more like scheduled type of guy, to go into the office and start writing. The aim is just to write a song today and just see what it becomes. But I've never done those things. It just have to come to me, and very often it does late at night. So it means I kind of, uh, at least before I became a father, I was writing a lot of songs during the night. But
mm,
I guess on the recent stuff, it's more daytime writing. But yeah, maybe that's something I've been thinking about, to try to get more. What is it? More
Yeah, more routine schedule.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, I did.
Um,
Partially, the reason why I asked you is that I'm also like kind of in. I have transitioned quite a bit to having a bit more of a routine when it comes to that
yeah,
stuff. And I used to also
yeah.
just simply wait until it would happen. And I think maybe it's a luxury that we can afford ourselves that because it will arrive anyways. So you might wait for it.
Mm,
There's no shortage of ideas and creativity when it needs to get out. But at the same
no,
time, I recognize um, that it could probably just be a little bit more structured, and I can, I don't even have like a family in the sense that you do with a kid, but I can imagine that it would be indeed quite valuable if you have, the more
yeah,
busier your life is around it, the harder it is
yeah,
gonna be
yeah.
to make time for it.
Absolutely, absolutely. So maybe that's why I'm thinking about trying to to
Yeah,
organize it a little differently from now on. But at the
yeah.
same time, at the same time, I've been making so much music the last well, since my son was born. So, but
Mm,
that's also because we are have been unable to travel and play music live. So
mm.
so it's a lot of, yeah. And now it's, if things open up again soon, which they are, I think,
Yeah, yeah.
then then I will probably try to rearrange a bit of those things. Yeah. Um,
Nice.
yeah. But how do you predict things are going to be in terms of, yeah, let's say for our oceans to tour in Europe within the not too distant future?
Yeah, that's difficult because that is well, it has everything to do with how well the singing is going. What we were speaking of earlier,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
I've on the one hand, I don't want to have those experiences again of those bad warm up gigs we had.
No.
So I'm currently in the process of like finding a good rehearsal space again, so that I can like put create like a rehearsal experience that's a little bit more true to actually playing live instead of just being
Yeah,
at
that
home. Yeah, so I
sounds
need to
smart.
do that a lot. But once that happens, I would still really like to give it a shot. Like if the whole live thing comes back to maybe as it was before the pandemic. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm a little bit at a crossroads in when it comes to playing live. It's like on the one hand, I would definitely like that, and with our oceans, we never established well such a thing anyway. To have because that project so far has been one album and there was no talk of playing live. That was just not even in the
Yeah.
cards. And then with the second album, that was meant to happen, but then the whole pandemic happened. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I can imagine, with what we were discussing earlier, with this whole element of singing and
Mm.
how much of your emotions and personality and how expressive that is. I can imagine how awesome that is to share that basically, right, on a stage. So yeah, part of me would really like to get to that place. And another part of me is like, well, do I really need that in my life so much? Because
Yeah.
on the one hand, I'm also, on the other hand, I should say, I am more into music because of the creation part of it, just making music.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm not sure, and a little bit at a crossroads, and just have to think. Yeah, maybe it's just a matter of waiting it out, and rehearsing more and seeing just where it goes
Yeah.
without having too much of a thought out
Yeah.
plan.
Sounds sounds like a good plan, actually. And yeah, I think it's a wise decision not to haste it. I mean,
Mm.
because it's also, like we talked about, it gets very personal when it comes to singing. So you
Mm.
just have to feel ready for it before doing it, I think.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's
Mm.
it's it's.
Yeah.
I don't know about you. I definitely because people do tend to say to me like you're probably too critical, or how do you say that? But
Yeah,
I'm not. Like, I really don't care so much if how perfect a live performance is, especially when it comes to something like singing. I care much more about if the experience just gets across, and I don't care if it's
yeah,
perfect. But there, like you just said, you just need to reach a certain point where you're at least comfortable to do
yeah,
that, and before that,
yeah.
it just doesn't make a lot of sense to
To do
to do
no.
it like by trial and error. And again, it's
Yeah.
also, I don't want to put our audience through too bad experiences.
No, no, no. Yeah, I see that point too, even though it's, yeah, we laugh because it's a little funny, because it's not going to be in the end of the world, or
Yeah,
such a huge, it's
it's
not it's
always a
not
good
it's not going to
reminder.
involve, yeah, it's not going to involve traumas to the ones who are
Well, for
there, I
me,
mean. Yeah,
yeah, no, that's so
yeah,
true. It's
yeah,
especially if you just like zoom out at the largest level you can. Like a friend of mine, also a singer. How does she put it? We're all just a bunch of over-evolved monkeys hopping around on a distant rock, spinning rock in the universe, or something like that.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah,
just, indeed, it's like, who fucking cares if you
yeah,
play a
yeah,
gig well?
yeah, yeah.
But what about you?
Uh,
Like, do you have any more like touring ambitions? And would you like to, with your personal stuff, also maybe come back with a full band? Is that something that you would still like to do, or more touring alone, like you also did in the past?
Well, that was the plan with the fifth album, was to to get a four-piece on stage and to travel around and do shows. But yeah, we all know what happened, so that didn't happen
Mm.
much. We have done, like you said, a stream. We did a live stream last summer. I've done 4 or 5 gigs since then, like proper gigs, in with obviously limited audience, but
Hmm.
up north. But yeah, that's it. And we will do one festival this summer.
Mm.
uh yeah. And there is not much more planned than that. Besides, I'm doing some like small events type of things up north, just me and the guitar,
Hmm.
this summer. And but we are also doing a couple of Pila shows this summer, and there is a tour in the fall, hopefully. And now it looks
Mm.
like it's gonna be 15 dates in Norway,
Oh,
and the
wow.
new album, yeah, with the new album that's coming out in September.
Okay. And any plans
So
to make that happen throughout Europe as well, for example?
I was curious to hear with you, and also I have an agent in the Netherlands, but he,
Yeah, we
uh,
talked for a little bit, him and I
yeah,
remember.
yeah, did you? Yeah, 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 yeah. About us doing
Yeah.
yeah, split. Yeah, he's not very optimistic towards the booking side of
Mm.
things right now.
Yeah, yeah.
Also because there's going to be a big queue of bands, and it's going to be, I mean, the venues will obviously pick the ones who they know will fill the venues,
Yeah,
and then
that makes
some
sense.
first. And yeah, so I think it's yeah, it's going to be a challenge to come out in Europe, at least for a year now, I think.
Hmm.
Don't you? I think it's
Yeah, I
going to
think
be
so.
hard
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But obviously, and hopefully, I mean, the aim is to come back to the Netherlands and Germany. And I have so many great memories of playing outside Norway. So I really hope that would happen again soon.
Hmm.
But I think it will be easier for me to do this with Pilo Bue than with my solo project, to be honest, because yeah, obviously it's a smaller production with Pilo Bue, and then we're in it, 50-50, me and the drummer. So it's
Mm-hmm.
a different type of setup. So yeah, but let's see. I hope I can do both
Yeah, yeah.
when the time comes. Yeah. Mm.
And you're very much focused on doing smaller shows, but like headlining shows, it seems. And what are your thoughts on trying to get support slots for bigger bands, as you did with Anathema, for example?
Yeah, I would. I would really like that. I've done quite a bit of that actually
Mm.
in you know, with the Anathema, with uh, long distance calling,
Oh yeah, you
or
were
with longest.
involved with them as
Yeah,
well, right?
yeah. Well, actually, I was. Well, I was a band member for a year or
Ah,
almost, or not a full band member, but the plan was for a short bit of time that I was going to be a band member.
where are
But
they
then I
from? Are they
couldn't.
from Germany or?
Yeah, yeah. And then I was suddenly the singer of one of their albums called Trips. So we did that album, and we did the following tour,
Hmm.
and then I was doing support as well as singing with them. So it was kind of a hectic tour for me, because it was three bands and I was the first, and that was the second, and then I
Oh
was
wow.
part of the third again. So it was, yeah,
And
it
which
was
band was
really
headlining then?
long distance calling.
Oh, okay, 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 yeah.
So it was their tour, yeah. So they had
Oh,
two
yeah.
support acts, yeah. Pilo Bue was main. It was supposed to be a support, but Alexander didn't have the possibility to do it. So
Hmm.
so yeah, things changed, and then I was doing it, which it wasn't always a huge success. Let's put it that way. But I learned a lot on that tour. But I
In
also
terms
learned
of
that
what you mean, like that it was
yeah,
you took too much work, or
yeah, maybe that too. But also, like, me and the guitar, kind of singer songwriter, opening
ah,
for two metal bands, or
right.
pretty heavy bands, that was a bit challenging on some of the
Hmm.
venues, because yeah, not everybody kind of respected that. So it was a bit hard, yeah.
Hmm.
And also being part of a band that used to be an instrumental band and sing, and
Yeah, you get
and
that whole
like people,
blowback.
yeah, yeah, and you get those looks from the diehard fans,
Yeah,
like, who the
get off
fuck are you,
stage.
and what and what are you doing on that stage right now? So that was that was heavy, and I don't think I had thought it too much through before doing it. So it was, yeah, it was a little scary actually, and I felt a bit uncomfortable,
Yeah,
because
makes sense.
I knew that it was kind of a 50-50
Hmm.
between people who welcomed me and didn't. So
It's a
yeah.
weird scenario that, I discovered that I also never gave this whole thing too much thought, but I discovered it with Cynic, that band, a little brief history. They did like a record long before I joined. Those guys are a little older.
Yeah.
And then I joined the band and we did like this long awaited after reunion, like second album. And that second album was very different. And that's when
Yeah.
I discovered, that band or fans can be really entitled to what their favorite band is gonna do, and they think their
Yeah.
opinion it can be very important to the band members as well. And
Mm.
well, that's just interesting to think about and to talk about. And for example, in that instance, I thought about it a little differently than I do with most bands, because that band created one album, didn't do anything for like 15 years, and then came back and had a huge like cult following. So in
Yeah.
that in at that point, the band owed everything to the fans just discovering that album. So then if you come back and you're gonna surprise
Mm.
them with something incredibly different, that's almost a little bit disrespectful to me, because it's thanks to them that you're there. Whereas
Yeah.
Whereas with bands like Opeth, or for example, I'm not sure you followed their career, but they like were this very heavy band for a long time, and then they changed to more of a prog setting, and they threw out the growl vocals and everything. And I
Yeah,
think that is totally legitimate. Like the guys and the band should do whatever the hell they want. They work their asses off to get to that place. It's their band.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Agree.
so I can only imagine like how like especially when you said like instrumental band with vocals and how acceptive they were. I've actually before creating the Our Oceans thing, and also after, I did debate turning Exvius, the instrumental project, into something
Yeah.
with my vocals, and I ultimately, or we, I should say, with the whole band,
Mm.
opted to not do that for just reasons we just talked
Yeah,
about, of just being
yeah, yeah.
too afraid that it wouldn't gel with too many people, and better to not
No,
do it. But
yeah, yeah. So I think, yeah, with long distance calling, I think they also did not know how to kind of behave with, I mean, with me on stage. And it was so weird. We just made that album. We got friends on the Anathema tour years before, because we both were part of that. They were
oh,
they
okay.
were with us for a few gigs, and that's how I met them.
Hmm.
And so we're very good friends. I love the guys, but it was we never kind of, suddenly we made an album that I think became very good. But suddenly we were there at the first gig, and like, wow, this is strange. It's cool, but it's strange to be here, part of these guys now that used to, yeah, mostly play songs without vocals, and there I am just singing, not playing the guitar even. So
That also
yeah,
must be weird, right? If you're so used to being on stage with the guitar, to kind of hide
yeah,
behind in a certain sense.
it was, but yeah, I tried to I tried to rehearse that in my living room in Oslo. I remember singing to the songs, just holding a mic.
Nice.
Just to, yeah, but yeah, you just try to, visualize
Yeah,
you're
completely.
gonna
I
be on
mean,
that
I
stage.
totally did the
Yeah,
same
yeah,
thing when I joined the band Cynic. I made actually videos of myself like playing, and it's just fun to laugh
yeah,
about
yeah.
that, because at one, it feels so silly. But on the other hand, well, it's kind of part of the job. So
Yeah, I guess it is. It's like same thing. If you're a teacher, you rehearse in front of the mirror. I mean, it's the same thing, isn't it?
hmm
So yeah, so I rehearsed and tried to imagine how that would be. And yeah, I survived, and I think I learned a lot on that tour. So yeah, it was fun. It was fun, most of all fun. A little bit, not sad, but a little bit, yeah, a little bit heavy. I mean, yeah, you know what I mean.
yeah, sounds like it.
A lot
With
on the mind, push. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
intense. It was intense. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I didn't really follow their path so well. The long distance calling
No.
guys. Did they go back to being instrumental after that, or
Yes. Yeah.
okay? And then was that like conscious decision, maybe based
Yeah, and
on the tour as well, or
yeah, I think it was also yeah, added to the equation. Yeah, I
Mm,
think uh, I think they realized that this is who we are, but they had to
yeah,
try it,
yeah, yeah.
because on the previous albums before the one I did with them, they used to have one song with kind of with a guest singer that they invited
Mm,
from a band they liked, or so.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's so me and Vincent Cavanaugh actually did a duet on
Mm,
one of the previous albums before that. So but I think it was very cool to produce that album with them, and to be a part of the writing, and like the melodies, and also the producer we worked with was really really good, a young guy, and just on the countryside in the middle of Germany. He had this huge studio, and it
wow.
was it was a very nice adventure. So yeah, good memory all in all. Yeah.
Great. So
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you a little bit about that guitar behind you, because that is kind of your, as far as I know you from the YouTube videos, the red one, yeah. From all the videos I saw and when I saw you live, you seem to prefer that guitar quite a bit. Or I don't know, like, do you have a large arsenal of guitars anyway, or are you kind of minimalist?
No, I'm a kind of a minimalistic guy when it comes to guitars. I have that one, which is Gibson ES335. Yeah, and I've had that since 2009, 8 or 9, I think. So it's been with me all along almost. Yeah, and I guess when you find a guitar that you really resonate with, it's no point in. But having said that, when I play on new guitars that I like, I tend to write different stuff. So maybe the time has come to get myself a new guitar soon. But the other guitar, which you see the
headstock,
that was difficult. Yeah, that one.
Can you show it, like what the body looks like? Is that an acoustic, or no, it's electric. Oh,
so this is
Dan Electro or whatever. That's right, or
no, it's a Duesenberg.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, I always confuse those D's.
Yeah. So it's a Duesenberg Star Player. It's called baritone guitar.
I was just gonna ask. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the one I use with Pyle and Boch.
Yeah, exactly. And what tuning did you put it in?
It's like a B to a B.
Okay.
Yeah, but the A, the A is in 425 instead of 440.
Really?
Because 440, yeah.
I didn't notice that yet.
No, but it's just something that I did when we recorded the first things we did ever with this band, and from that day it's been like that. So it's yeah, so it's different from the standard.
That's actually interesting. And I know that trick very well from Pantera. They used to do that. Like,
did they?
Yeah, like and I think also by the same margin, even. Like that's kind of a quarter note out, if I have to guess, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's 15 cents below. Yeah.
Yeah, so a little less then. But
yeah.
What I was wondering, like with Pantera, you never really got the sense of. I was going to ask about the vocals. Like, doesn't that present a challenge if you're used to singing your whole life into like a normal, just Western temperament tuning, and then all of a sudden, like the pitch is slightly off? Like, doesn't that create a problem?
No, I don't think so. Because as long as I hear the reference note, so to speak, as long as I hear my instrument well, I don't think it has been a problem. I think initially I turned it 15 cents below was because the fact that I could on my tuner, and I thought it was funny, but most of all because some of the songs were like just on the edge of what I could do, where I could reach, and then I, just to trick the head, I guess I took it a little bit down, and then now I'm in control.
Nice.
So, but also now I think it's cool because unconsciously, I think you will, when you hear our songs, let's say in a playlist, you will hear that it kind of differs from a lot of the others.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned that I was kind of a little bit surprised that I didn't notice that, because indeed you usually when you listen to them indeed in context of other songs that are in normal tuning, you hear it right away, unless you have perfect pitch and you can immediately hear that, but I can't. But
No,
I'm with you.
I
It
can't.
does create a certain like flavor or something, which is interesting.
I think so. But like you say, you have to, yeah, not for everyone to notice, but I guess people who are, yeah, like a bit nerdy when it comes to music,
Yeah.
they will hear it. Yeah, but yeah, but and you know, the ones we've created the albums with, they also say the same. That's a cool thing. It gives you kind of a signature, maybe.
Exactly. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
So
it's, you know, it's just a more for me. It's just a funny little thing that I
it
think,
is. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, I think it's a bit funny. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and then I've
Mm.
seen that guitar actually pop up recently. Like a friend of a friend also plays it in a band, but in a very metal band, and it seems to work well.
Yeah, it's a fantastic guitar.
Are they expensive?
Really. Actually, this was a press. I got this as a present for when I was turning 33 or something.
Oh.
I think it's around. I think it's around 1,000 euro, a little bit more than 1,000 euros,
Mm.
maybe 1,100,
Mm.
1,200 euros. But it's so precise, and it has so much personality too. So it's,
Ah, yeah, I love that
yeah,
in
it's
instruments.
yeah, it's yeah, it's such a good guitar and so inspiring to create songs on. It's yeah, really really good.
Yeah, it's also like what you just said before about having, on the one hand, maybe your instruments that you really resonate with, just stick
Yeah,
with them, and on the other hand, like having something like to explore new possibilities. I'm always exactly in that spot, like, and I gravitated slowly, especially in the last couple of years, towards only using Telecasters. So I'm strictly
yeah,
using like one guitar basically for whatever I do. But
yeah,
and I have a couple of them, and well, but they're almost similar. Um,
yeah,
and then I got to the point where I almost like also went the Gibson route and maybe an SG, because they can sound really nice and I like how they look.
yeah,
And then my dad is a fellow guitar player, and he also really got into that Gibson vibe like some years back. So he also has a very similar guitar to the one you have. Well, same model, but I
yeah,
think even the same color. And he
yeah.
has a couple of different models from them, and well, they definitely can be so nice as well. So yeah, I'm not sure. Like every time I debate it, it's like, should I or well. It always
Well,
also
I
has
guess,
such a charm to stick with just limited tools
yeah,
and just get the
yeah.
maximum out of whatever you happen to
Mm,
use.
mm. Yeah, you know, and it's also about amps, and it's about
Mm.
effect pedals and all that stuff too. But I've never been too geeky with things, so I've never like dived into and had to learn, you know, everything within uh, the programs and stuff. I've always just managed to you know well, almost every time I just record on the phone and send it to whoever I'm going to work with, and we start from there. So
Nice.
that's yeah, I guess that's why I need someone to help me,
Mm.
or there is absolutely no chance, you know. But I also like that I do have to depend on other people to help me, you know. uh, but maybe there is not, well, there's pros and cons to everything like we
Mm.
talked about, but maybe that also kind of maybe I don't achieve exactly what I want because I can't do it entirely on my own all the time.
Mm.
But still, I'd like to think that it gets better than what I would have done alone, I
Yeah.
think.
No, I get
So
that definitely.
and I also like, you know, yeah, yeah, working with other people is also a big part of the whole thing we're doing.
Yeah, yeah, and
For
that's
me,
just one little way of making sure
yeah,
that happens. I totally get that mindset, and I think that is you said just said
yeah,
it, like there's pros and cons to all these situations, and I think with, for example, with me, I'm like
mm,
mixing music is part of, well, that's kind of my main job at the moment. So it can be incredibly tempting.
Yeah.
Also, because we talked already kind of indirectly about how little money is involved in what we do. So then it can be really tempting. Like you have the skill set, and it's much cheaper to do it yourself. So then it can be really tempting to do
Yeah.
everything yourself. But really, if I would
Yeah.
have the luxury of at least getting an external producer, but preferably also someone else to mix it, I would prefer that, just to get out of your own head and have someone to
Yeah.
yeah
But like you say, it's not always you have the opportunity, because obviously it will cost you a bit more of money. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, I've perhaps managed, or also been saving up to, instead of buying the equipment, I've been renting
yeah
the equipment and the people. So,
hmm
but yeah, it's I think we are also privileged in Norway when it comes to fundings and stuff. And I've always, I consider myself lucky, because I've managed to get a lot of fundings for the different
very nice
projects. So that's obviously helped me
yeah
a lot. So yeah.
Yeah,
But
we have some
also,
funding
yeah.
here as well, but and we've tried to tap into them a couple of times, and it differs a little bit over the years. Like, there's been cutbacks in recent years, so there's less funding, I guess, these days than was available some years back.
Yeah.
But personally, I never really got into that environment yet. Would still like to try, because why not? But for example, a good friend of mine really did get accepted into the subsidies and got like a couple of really big ones actually, and he's doing really well with it. So it is also possible here.
Yeah. I think because I was going to ask, because that's also my impression, that the Netherlands and I think France too in Europe are two countries where it is a lot of money going to to the venues and the artists.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, because France and Netherlands, the venues you have over there, there's so many really nice venues, I think.
Yeah, right.
Like in terms of gear and equipment. Yeah, isn't it? So yeah, that's for me that has been really helpful. But also, I think if you want something bad enough, you will.
You'll make it happen.
You will. Yeah. Don't you think?
Yeah, for sure.
I think so. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But also, I was saying, like, instead of buying a new guitar, I discovered a capo when and suddenly I could write loads more songs, just to put this on the fourth fret. Yeah, it blew my mind when I discovered the capo. It was
I really I've made a mental note of like using those as well, because for the longest time back when I was more into maybe instrumental fusion music and whatever, I would always find it like sort of it's a silly mindset, but I thought it was kind of a hacky kind of amateur way of making your instrument different. But these days,
because that's funny.
Yeah, but I think totally different about it now, because I actually do use like many open, my chords are with many open strings, and I think that's also a consequence of being an intuitive writer. You're not going about it like, ooh, I'm playing this chord here, but it's just finding interesting little voicings. So then if you have a different tuning or a different capo tuning, like that totally works.
Yeah, it does. It's all about triggering the creativity.
Yeah.
But funny that you said it, because I've been using this with Pilobu and now too, and then a lot of people say, "What the hell are you? What the hell is that? Playing hard rock with a capo on the second fret? It's not allowed."
Yeah, it's funny, these self-imposed rules. Yeah. So that makes me wonder, like, do you always play in standard tunings, whether or not with capo, or are there also, do you also play like in odd, weird, made-up tunings or something?
well, not perhaps not made up, but the DADGAD.
Oh yeah, that's a famous one, right?
Yeah, I think so. I've been using that a lot, and especially
Hmm.
on perhaps the two latest albums, I've been using
Hmm.
that tuning a lot. Yeah, that's also been really, yeah, like, yeah, new voicings and interesting new ways of going. So yeah, that's also really inspiring to tune
Yeah,
the
right.
guitars differently. Yeah, it is.
It's something I often
Yeah,
forget that it's even possible, because then I tune back
yeah,
to having it in standard tuning, and I forget even it's an option. But it is indeed so. Like, it can be, just fueling for inspiration.
yeah.
I remember for their first Our Oceans record, for example, like a lot of the songs were written like in weird tunings they came up with, and then later I
Mm,
changed it back to normal tuning and just figured out how to play it on the normal tuning, and that worked in almost all cases. It just, but still, I ended up with shapes that I would have never have thought of using if I didn't start
exactly.
with.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I see. Because I mean, we tend to go the same ways on the
Yeah,
guitar
yeah, of
when we've
course.
done it so much, and then if it's different setup, then it's, yeah, so that's why we do it. But it's also interesting that you can play it on the standard
Yeah,
after all. Yeah.
yeah, not
Mm.
everything. Like some parts I needed to
No, no.
get,
Yeah,
in weird tunings.
yeah,
And there
yeah.
are some. Mhm.
How did you tune it? How did you tune the guitar for when you wrote the first album?
I was experimenting with something I found that King Crimson guitar player does. What's
Ah,
his name? Rob Fripp.
Fripp.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And then I changed that tuning a little bit, so it ended up being this almost tuned in fifths tuning. But
yeah,
that you cannot really make that happen unless you have really thin strings at the top, because otherwise the spacing gets too far apart and you need such thin strings on the outer strings. So I did,
okay,
but it's been some years ago now, so I don't fully remember. But it was tuned to C, like low C, and then up
yeah.
in fifths until, yeah.
Also fifths all the way.
Yeah, very weird to play that. It's like just everything is off. There's just nothing that works anymore. But it's the furthest you can go,
That
pretty
was
much.
really inspiring. Hey,
Yeah,
nothing works. I'm inspired. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And then on the
Yeah.
last album, I went more to just normal drop tunings, like drop D and drop C a lot, because
Mhm.
now I have this like red telly that it's either in D standard or in drop C. So that's,
Yeah.
right. It's just one string drop.
Yeah.
Or the white one is just in E standard or drop D.
Mm.
And even I find that little change of just having one string differently, I found a lot of
Yeah.
like interesting voicings with that, even, because you can
Yeah.
find,
I
yeah.
bet. I've not written so much in a drop D or whatever. Yeah, it's mainly been dot god and standard. So
Hmm.
yeah, perhaps I'm gonna try try a new approach for the next project. Yeah.
Yeah, I should try the
And
DatGat thingy actually, because I don't think
yeah,
I ever had a guitar in that tuning. Maybe
yeah.
with lessons
Then
or
you definitely
something,
should.
but
You should. Yeah, you should definitely try it. It's a really nice tuning. And
nice.
also when just small gadgets like a drum machine like this
Uh-huh.
made me write much a bit more up tempo stuff for the last
Ah.
album than what I have
Uh-huh.
done before. So that was kind of a choice I made to just to turn this up into a guitar amp and just
Okay.
get the BPMs a bit up, because
Yeah.
I tend to go very slow very often. So
That's
I
funny.
wanted to change that a little bit. Yeah.
I noticed the same
Mm.
thing with me. If I write kind of more singer-songwritery songs, I often start out too slow, and then I realize
Yeah.
later in the project, like, oh, wait a minute, it's starting to sound so, uh,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Because
low energy.
yeah, and I've done that so much that I wanted to, you
Yeah,
know,
change it up. It actually, that
Yeah,
reminds me of what we were just talking about. The alternate tunings reminds me of one of my latest and very late discoveries, musically speaking, is
mm,
shit. What is his name? Of Lala Stills Nash Crosby.
yeah.
Are you like? Do you are
Crosby,
you?
Stills, Nash and Young,
Yeah.
or just Crosby?
Are you at all familiar with what Crosby does these days?
No.
Okay, I should send you to his latest two albums, and
Yeah,
because I'm pretty sure that you'll really dig it as well. It's kind of acoustic guitar at the heart of it a lot of times, and kind of singer-songwriter songs, but also a little bit more refined as far as like harmonic chord choices go, so like kind of in line with, I guess, what we do a little bit. And he has also has some really nice
yeah.
musicians around him to kind of accompany him. And but what made me thought of it
Mm.
is that he I also saw him mention this in interviews, is that he uses like all these crazy just made up tunings on the acoustic guitars, and I think just a lot of like tuning per song, you know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Obviously, the challenging part with that is when you're playing live, and you need
Exactly.
7,000 guitars along
Or a
the
lot of
way.
tuning.
But yeah, yeah, and then you have to talk.
Yeah. Right.
It's fun, but but it kind of it stops the flow. I think,
Yeah.
but yeah, but that shouldn't stop the art. So I'll take everything back. I'm gonna try. Yeah, because I think it's I think it's much to gain on, just trying different tunings much more than I have done
Yeah.
this far.
Yeah, I think same with
Yeah,
me, but
yeah,
yeah, and well, I think in with him, he is obviously so well known that he doesn't have to tune his own guitars anymore. So then that's no
no,
longer a
he
problem.
probably
But
have. Yeah, yeah, that's true.
it's
That's
funny
true.
that you just to hijack your comment about then you have to talk. Like, what is your experience been like talking to an audience? Like, do you find that uncomfortable, or like where did that come from?
That's so very depending on my mood and
Ah,
how the day is. It's almost scary how different that can be for me. I mean, sometimes I really enjoy it, and I just don't give a shit and just talk about random stuff almost. But sometimes I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't really want to talk at all. So, and I try to be true to myself, and explain with an inner voice to myself that you don't have to talk and be all you know you don't have to talk and try to make excuses for making sad music or something. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's
totally, man.
yeah,
This again, like we're so alike with that stuff, and I've to kind of a great annoyance for my band members, certain band members who over the years
yeah,
have like tried to to teach me, like, dude, you have to get your stage talk down. You have to mention that we're selling
yeah,
merch, and you have to uplifting
yeah,
spirits. And but I kept fighting it with exactly the same just
mm,
natural mindset, is what you said. Like, I just, some days I feel that, like you just said, some
yeah,
days, and I will
yeah,
talk about, whatever, almost random shit.
yeah,
Some days it's funny,
yeah.
some days not, and some days I'm not in the mood to talk. And to go
No,
against that, against your, what you feel that
yeah,
moment, just feels so unnatural.
and I don't think you should. If you're in it for the long term, people probably know you're selling that album in the merch department anyway.
Yeah.
So I think it's it's so 2019. No, I don't. Yeah, I don't think you should. I mean, you have, like we talked about. Also, it's a lot of focus up there anyway, and
Hmm.
still have, and in addition to that, have to remember to say all these, practical info stuff, well, sometimes you do it because it's natural and you want to do it, and sometimes you don't. I mean,
Yeah, I
it's
agree.
yeah. I remember with Anathema also. Sometimes, Vincent. Sometimes we couldn't bother to come from backstage to sign anything. It's just
Mm,
and yeah, of course. I mean, days are different, right?
yeah.
So yeah, yeah.
Good. Well, we've been talking for
But
2 hours already. So if you want to maybe,
have we?
yeah, it's time fucking flies when you're on this
Holy shit!
thing.
I thought you said that it was a limit to one
Yeah,
hour on this.
I thought
Yeah,
that, but maybe I was thinking about that during our talk, and maybe it's for group calls or something like that,
yeah, maybe, yeah,
which might
maybe,
be the
yeah.
case. But
Well, we could have talked for 2 more hours, but I'm not saying that we should. But there's probably a lot more we could have talked about
I
on the
agree,
fly.
and I had this sense also when I met you, and we hung out, because I think on so many levels we operate in a very similar way, and which is interesting
Yeah,
because I don't get to meet a lot of people who I know a lot of like musicians and like a lot of musicians, but it's rare that I meet people who are so alike in their motivations to
yeah.
make music. So really interesting. And yeah, I agree. We can go on for
That's
longer,
probably
but
why we
maybe.
have kept. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, maybe we can simply have another talk somewhere in the future, and then we'll have some leftover stuff to talk about.
Yeah, let's do that. And even if we cross over some of the same topics,
Yeah, it's
it's
all
uh,
fine.
it's it's just a podcast.
It's a what?
It's just a podcast.
Oh yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Of course.
No, but it's it's thank you for inviting me. Really, really nice to see you and talk to you again.
And
So
same for me.
let's
Thank you very much for being
yeah.
here. That was awesome, and a very different guest than the first one, but definitely also a cool experience.
Can I watch the first one?
Yeah, it's
Is
on.
it on your YouTube?
It is on YouTube. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Will
Well,
do.
maybe hang around a little bit so we can say goodbye in private. But for now, I'm gonna end the public
Okay.
stream. So
Yes.
yeah, thanks everyone for watching, and see you guys next time.